Every morning, before the sun breached the horizon, I ran in the local park. 5:30 a.m., when the sky was a bruised gray and the air so cold your breath turned to frost in front of your face. My usual route looped around the lake, past thorny bushes, under the shadow of pine trees, and back over the stone bridge. At that hour, the park felt like it belonged to me. Nothing but the crunch of gravel under my sneakers and the thump of my pulse. Until he showed up. It was a chilly fall morning, the fog so thick it swallowed the lake hole. I was tying my laces when a shape stepped out of the mist, like a ghost clawing its way from the earth. A man, thin, wearing a black jacket with the zipper pulled up to his chin. I couldn't make out his face. The fog and the hood cast a shadow over it. He started running, same time as me, but too synchronized. When I sped up, he matched me. When I slowed, he did too, like a mirror. I told myself I was overthinking it. The park's public, right? But a sick feeling like a cold finger down my spine whispered this wasn't normal. The next day, he was there again. Same black jacket, same time, same rhythm. This time closer, maybe 20 meters away. I didn't look at him, but I felt it, a pair of eyes boring into me. Not straight on, but sneaky, like a predator that doesn't want its prey to bolt. My heart raced, not from the run, from a vague dread taking root inside me. When I reached the stone bridge, I glanced into the fog. His hood was pulled lower, but I saw eyes. Not color, not human, just two white flecks like headlights in a tunnel. By the third day, I was sure he was following me. The gap between us had shrunk, maybe 10 meters. I could hear his steps, crisp, but not like shoes on gravel. More like something slithering over dry leaves. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. Each step felt like wading through mud, like something was dragging me back. Passing the lake, I caught a reflection in the water. Not mine, not his. A shadow, tall and crooked, like it was breathing under the surface. On the fourth day, I changed my route. Instead of the park, I veered out to the main street. I figured I'd lose him in the city, among cars and streetlights. But as I turned, I heard his steps, same rhythm, same distance. I ran faster, past shuttered shops, under the sickly yellow glow of street lamps. In a store window, I saw my reflection, and behind it a shape. No face, no body, just a black smear like it was inching closer. I stopped, my breath locked in my chest. I turned. He was there, 5 meters away. His zipper was still up, but now I felt him staring. Not with eyes, with a kind of hunger. I said nothing. I just sprinted home. My trembling hands fumbled the key into the lock, slammed the door, and bolted it. I peered through the window. Nothing. But I knew he was still out there, in the fog, waiting. That night, I didn't sleep. Every tiny sound, the clock's tick, a dripping faucet, jerked me upright. I checked my phone, but something was off. There was a photo in my gallery I hadn't taken, a blurry shot of the park with a shadow in the fog dead center of the lake. Below it, a text from no number, no timestamp. You coming tomorrow? My breath caught. I swear that message wasn't there before bed. I shut the phone off and chucked it onto the couch. The next morning, I didn't dare run. I holed up at home, curtains drawn, my coffee going cold untouched. At noon, when I took the trash out, my heart stopped. There he was, across from my house, under the shade of a pine tree. His jacket was open now, but his face, it was like it had melted. No eyes, no nose, just a smooth, blank surface, like an unpainted mask. He dropped his cigarette, crushed it under his heel, and drifted toward the alley. But his steps made no sound, like he was floating above the ground. I ran inside, locked the door, and called the police. Voice shaking, I said, someone was outside my house, following me, from the park to here. They came, but found nothing. No man, no cigarette, but no trace. They said it was probably just a creep, but with no evidence. their hand were tied. I locked the door and sat in the living room, but just as I started to breathe easier, I heard the front door. Not a knock, not a bell. Like someone turned a key and pushed it open. My breath caught. I ducked behind the sofa, ears straining. Footsteps, soft, wet, like someone walking in from a swamp. I peeked through a gap in the curtains. No one in the hallway. But a strange smell filled the house, like rusted iron and something burning. The steps grew closer, circling the living room. Then a whisper, right behind me. "You coming tomorrow?" I spun around, nothing. But the curtains swayed, like someone had just brushed past. I called the police again. They came faster this time, searched the house, but found nothing. They said maybe I was imagining things, stressed out, but I knew it wasn't my head. The lock was fine, no sign of a break-in, but there was a wet stain on the living room carpet, dark like diluted blood. After they left, I barricaded the door with a table and stayed up all night. Since that day, I haven't run in the park. I don't even leave the house during the day. But every morning at exactly 5:30, I hear footsteps, crisp, crisp, like someone's jogging around my house. The curtains stay drawn, but sometimes, in the dim light, a shadow passes behind them. Last week, I found a scrap of paper in my coat pocket, soggy, crumpled, with one scrawled line, "I'm waiting." I swear it wasn't mine. Now every night, I check every lock. But sometimes, just sometimes, I feel someone in the house. Not in the hall, not in the bedroom. Right behind me, counting my breaths. It was 4:17 p.m., and I was leaning against the tiled wall of the 23rd Street subway station in New York, under the flickering yellow glow of fluorescent lights. The cold tunnel wind howled like a lost soul, whipping my hair across my face. The F train was late, and the platform was eerily empty, save for a few scattered figures lurking in the dim light. The air smelled of damp metal and burnt coffee from a shuttered kiosk nearby, and I fiddled with the edge of my phone to calm my nerves. Suddenly, the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps, sharp, like the tick faint of a broken clock, came from my left. A woman in a black leather jacket, oversized sunglasses, and short blonde hair stopped about a meter away. She stood too straight, too still, as if she wasn't breathing or blinking. I felt her staring at me, though her dark lenses hid her eyes. Why was she so close? My heart picked up a beat. I told myself I was overreacting. It's the subway. People stand wherever. But when the tunnel wind gusted again, tangling my hair, her gaze felt like a cold claw sinking into my skin. I glanced up cautiously. Her sunglasses reflected the station's lights, and her lips were a flat, emotionless line, like they were carved from stone. The distant rumble of the train echoed, and the few people on the platform shuffled toward the edge. She didn't move, just tilted her head slightly, like a predator sizing me up. When the train door slid open, I hurried to the middle car, hoping to lose her in the crowd. But her footsteps, sharp, rhythmic ticks, followed right behind me, too close for a stranger in the subway. I slipped into the car and sank into an orange plastic seat near the door. The car was nearly empty, just a guy with headphones in the corner and an older woman with a worn paperback. The woman in the leather jacket stood directly across from me, gripping the metal pole. Her sunglasses stayed on, even in the car's dim light. Why were shades in the subway? My pulse quickened. The train lurched forward, its wheels screeching on the tracks like a relentless heartbeat. My eyes fell to her hand, slim, with short, pale nails. Between her index finger and thumb was a small folding knife, the kind that fits in a pocket. The blade was still closed, but her fingers traced it, as if speaking to it. My breath caught in my chest. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe the knife was for work, a tool, nothing more. But why was she staring so strangely? She smiled, a half smile, cold and lifeless, meant just for me. Her voice was soft but cut through the car's silence like a scream. "Rough day, huh?" I didn't answer, just nodded and pretended to rummage in my bag. My heart was pounding out of my chest. Her gaze, hidden behind those lenses, felt like a blade, etching my every move into memory. I reached for my phone, but its battery was at 5%. If I tried calling someone, it'd die mid-call. The next stop was announced, 14th Street. The doors opened, but no one got on. The headphone guy stepped off, and the older woman stayed buried in her book. It was just me, her, and the book lady now. The knife was still in her hand, her fingers now moving slower, like part of some eerie ritual. My stomach twisted into knots. Getting off. Her voice sliced through the silence, sharp and sudden. I looked up. She was still standing across from me, but now leaning slightly forward, as if trying to see my face better. "No, I've got a few stops left," I said, my voice trembling despite my efforts. Her smile widened, but it was still ice cold. "That's a mistake. You should get off." Her words were calm, but a threat lurked beneath them, like a whispered secret meant to wound. Why should I get off? Did she know where I was going? I gripped my bag tighter, as if it could anchor me in this nightmare. The train jolted again, and the car's lights flickered off for a moment. In that split second of darkness, I felt something brush my shoulder, soft but deliberate. When the lights returned, she was still there, but the knife was now in her left hand, the blade slightly open. Just a sliver, but its glint under the subway's glow pierced my eyes. I glanced at the older woman, hoping to catch her eye, maybe start a conversation to feel normal. But she was lost in her book, oblivious, like she was in another world. The sound of the knife tapping the metal pole grew louder, a sinister rhythm closing in on me. The next stop, West 4th, was closer to my apartment, but I still had 2 stops to go. If I got off now, would she follow? If I stayed, what then? My phone was down at 2% battery. I couldn't risk it. I had to do something. "What's your name?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Maybe talking would make her seem less threatening. But she just tilted her head, like my question was absurd. "You know," she said. My heart froze. Me? I didn't know her. I'd never seen her before in my life. The car shook again, and the lights went out for several seconds this time. In the dark, I heard her breathing, slow, too close, like she was right by my ear. When the lights flickered back, she was one step closer, looming over me. The knife was fully open now, its blade gleaming under the fluorescent glow. Breathing felt impossible. The doors opened at West 4th. The older woman finally stood, closed her book, and stepped off. Now it was just me and her. "Last chance," she said, her voice like a winter wind, chilling me to the bone. "Last chance for what?" My hand locked onto my bag strap, the only thing tethering me to reality. I stood, my legs trembling. I'm getting off at the next stop," I stammered. She just smiled, and this time her teeth showed, yellow, uneven like a wolf's. She slipped the knife toward her pocket, but I could still see it, as if she wanted me to. The doors closed, and the train rolled on. The next stop, my stop, was minutes away, but time felt frozen, like a film stuck on a single frame. Her gaze never left me, and she started humming under her breath, a word, a name, or maybe a threat. I couldn't make it out, but each note stabbed at my chest. I clutched my bag and edged toward the door, ready to bolt the second it opened. The door slid open. I leapt out, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Her footsteps, those sharp, relentless ticks, echoing behind me like a shadow that wouldn't let go. I lost her in the crowded station, but when I reached the street, I glanced back. There she was, standing under a broken street lamp, sunglasses still on, her smile like an open wound. I ran into the night, my heart pounding in my ears, and when I got home, I locked the door, but I could still feel her watching. I don't know why she was following me, what she wanted from me, but it was the first time I'd had such a terrifying experience, like my soul had been ripped from my body. Now, every night, the sound of footsteps in the street jolts me awake. Every shadow by my window feels like her. My coat carries a faint smell, like old leather and cold metal. That wasn't there before. I don't know who she was or why she chose me, but I'm certain she's out there, waiting in the dark with that smile and her gleaming knife. The air in Queens tonight felt alive, but not in a vibrant way. More like something sick and heavy, lurking just out of sight. Jake and I were crammed in the rusty elevator of an old building, a cheap case of beer in his hand and a crumpled pack of smokes in my pocket. We were headed to a basic party, one of those dime a dozen gatherings in a cramped, dim apartment that reeked of damp and shared misery. But when the elevator doors screeched open and a whiff of sharp, ashy perfume hit me, something twisted in my gut. It was like someone, somewhere, was waiting for us. We stepped into the apartment, and the party was in full swing. Neon pink and blue lights flickered from a cheap lamp in the corner, and thumping electronic music made the thin walls tremble. A few people sprawled on a torn-up couch. A couple bickered over nothing in the kitchen, and someone stood by the window, glued to their phone. Jake popped open a beer and smirked. Same old, right? I nodded, but something fell off. Like a pair of eyes was drilling into me from a corner I couldn't see. Past 10, the door swung open, and she walked in. A girl with long, wet black hair, like she'd just come in from a rain that didn't exist. Tonight's sky was dry and starless. She wore a gray, rumpled coat that looked like it had been rotting in a closet for years. She called herself Alice, her voice low and cold, like it was crawling up from a forgotten basement. I live upstairs, she said. Your noise carries up there. Nobody knew what to say. Lucas, the host who'd barely pulled this party together, gave an awkward grin and said, "Well, come on in." But Alice just nodded and drifted to the darkest corner of the room, where the neon glow barely reached. By midnight, the party had fizzled out. People trickled away, either drunk and giggling or bored and irritated. Just me, Jake, Lucas, and a couple others were left. And Alice. She was perched by the window, knees tucked up, like a broken doll with only her eyes alive. She never smiled, just stared. Her gaze had this weird weight, like someone watching you from inside a nightmare you can't wake from. I caught her snapping a picture of me with her phone, sneaky, like she thought I wouldn't notice. My heart lurched. "What are you doing?" I asked. She lifted her head slowly, her voice flat as ice. "I just want to see what the people whose voices reach my place look like." Jake, next to me, laughed and muttered, "What a weirdo." But I wasn't laughing. There was something in her eyes, a kind of emptiness that felt like it was hiding something worse. Like she wasn't talking to me, but as something in her own head. Past 1, I decided to bail. The party was dead, and I was done. I reached for my phone to call an Uber, but it was gone. I checked my pockets, my bag, even under the couch and in the kitchen. Nothing. Jake shrugged. Maybe someone swiped it. But who? No one had gotten close enough to grab it. Except Alice. I glanced at her, still by the window with that eerie calm. Her phone wasn't in her hand anymore. "You seen my phone?" I asked. She shook her head, not even looking at me. "No," but there was something in her voice, a kind of smug certainty that made my pulse race. Like she knew I'd ask, like she was ready for it. When Jake and I left, the building's stairwell felt darker than it should have. The elevator was busted, so we took the stairs. Every step echoed in the narrow hallway. But there was another sound, too. A faint scrape, like something dragging across the floor. I glanced back once, but there was nothing, just our shadows on the grimy walls. Jake snapped, "What's with you? You're acting paranoid." But I couldn't tell him I felt something following us. Not a person. Something else. Outside, Jake said, "Call Lucas tomorrow. Maybe your phone's still there." But I wasn't thinking about my phone anymore. I was thinking about Alice. That picture she took. Her words. The people whose voices reach my place. How loud were we, really? And why did she even come down? Why did she act like she already knew me? The next morning, when I borrowed Jake's phone to call Lucas, he said no one named Alice lived in the building. The upstairs apartment was empty, had been for years, its lock rusted shut. My stomach dropped. "You sure?" I said. She said she was from upstairs. Lucas sounded rattled. I thought she was one of your friends. I didn't know her. That afternoon, I don't know why, but I dragged Jake back to the building. Something was pulling me there. The stairwell still stank of damp and ash. When we reached the upstairs apartment, the door was ajar. My breath caught in my chest. I pushed it open slowly. Inside was pitch dark, except for a faint glow from a broken window. Dust coated everything, but there were fresh footprints on the floor, like someone had been there hours ago. Then I saw it on the wall, and my blood froze. Photos, pinned up with rusty thumbtacks. Me, Jake, Lucas, everyone from the party. Each in different moments. Me by the window, Jake in the kitchen, Lucas holding a drink. Under each photo, a scrawled note in jagged handwriting. Mine read, loud voice. Jake's, too many laughs. Lucas's, silent lies. In the center of the wall was a bigger photo. Alice. But in this one, her eyes weren't there. Just two black voids staring out. Jake stumbled back, whispering, "What the hell is this?" But I couldn't move. If I looked away from that photo, I felt like something would lunge at me from the shadows. A rustling sound came from the back of the apartment, like something being dragged. Jake hissed, "Let's go." But I couldn't. I had to know. I crept toward the noise. In a corner, under a dusty tarp, was a metal box. When I opened it, my heart stopped. It was stuffed with phones, dozens of them, some still powered on. On one screen, a photo was open. It was me, at the party, by the window. And behind me, in the shadows, a gray shape stood. Faceless. I never went back to that building. My phone was never found. Jake tried to forget, but I can't. Every night, when I'm alone, I feel someone watching me from a place I can't see. One night, in my phone's gallery, synced through iCloud, I found a photo I didn't take. It was me, in my apartment, on my bed, asleep. And behind me, in the dark, a gray shape stood, faceless. Now, every time I hear footsteps in my building stairwell, I lock the door. But I know, somewhere, Alice is still listening, still snapping photos. And worst of all, I know she's heard my voice, and I don't know where she'll find me next. Dare to watch these 3 creepy horror tales to the end. Hit the bell, subscribe, and drop a comment saying which story terrified you most. If you survive the night,